Oh shit! I need to press the thing. Oh, there's a new thing, right? Gird your loins. I didn't know where to tell you about this. Oh, hello. You're welcome listening to Beat Motel. It's the usual sort of chaotic kind of start.
Hi.
Right. New disclaimer. You're listening to the Beat Motel podcast, and we need to warn you that we like to use words like fuck, shit, and syndicalist, boxy scrutux, angry flap, and film biscuits. And we don't often bleep those words out, apart from because we're not complete animals. But if you understand that and you like music, then listen on.
How long does the fuck go on for?
Ages. That's you. Did you recognise it?
No.
About 3 episodes.
I can't listen to this. I hate my own voice. I haven't got used to it yet.
Oh, sometimes I do actually. I watch little bits of it on YouTube when I'm missing you. The other disclaimer, it was just too long. It's like nearly 2 minutes long, and it just the joke was sort of wearing thin, so I made a really short one. But that fuck is about 3 episodes ago when I was doing the countdown. So listeners, there's like a 3, 2, 1 countdown before we start recording. And I pressed the disclaimer, and you just went "fuck" really loudly. So I went back to the audio and I sampled that. And if you want the technical details, I put it on an emulator of a tape delay, so that it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. But that just tickled me to have you as Sam.
What's the return then? What's the return? Let's give us the real geeky details.
The return. Oh my god, I could actually tell you, but I'm not going to. I can tell you kind of what width tape it's emulating and everything. Yeah. No, not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to play your riff of the week. Who was that, Sam?
That was Ministry with New Religion from their new album. No idea what the new album's called, because that's how we roll. And it is by far the best track of the new album. It's called Opium for the Masses, the new album. It's not a bad album, but that track literally just fucking great. And to me, it's sort of somewhere between a Slayer riff, and Killing Joke.
Yeah, I get that. It's become a cliche. I ought to just make a sample of myself saying, "I'm really surprised by your choices, Sam." But I am. I didn't know you liked Ministry at all. I've been really put off Ministry by just the stupidest thing. You know, we've talked on the podcast before about how my friends' opinions of music has like a massive bearing on how I feel about it, which I think it's all very tribal for me. And my bandmates, Rocky and Simon, went to go and see Ministry at the Waterfront in Norwich, which is a brilliant venue, a few years ago, and they said it's like the worst gig they've ever been to. They were Ministry playing covers, and they said they were just sloppy and awful. So when I saw that you chose Ministry, I was immediately like, oh god, really, Ministry? But I like the early. Were they kind of industrial? Were they part of the industrial metal kind of thing?
Yeah, they sort of like were. They're incredibly important to industrial music. They're one of the pioneers of the American industrial sort of world. And I mean, for me, I've never really got into a whole album of Ministry, but I really like individual songs they've done. I think in a way they're really good singles band. Even if they don't release the right songs as singles. Like Jesus Built My Hot Rod, which is with the Butthole Surfers, Gabby Haynes.
That's wild. That is. I only heard that for the first time very recently.
That's an amazing song.
I almost switched it off. It came on Six Music during the morning when I was sort of, I may have been a little bit hungover, I don't know. And it was just too much. You know, it was just like I cannot cope with that much of an onslaught. But I left it on and ended up really loving it.
Yeah. And he also was in a band called Revolting Cocks. This is Al Jurgensen.
So is they American? I thought Ministry were British.
No, they're American.
Oh no! Do you know what that genuinely changes my sort of, not my opinion of them, but how I view them in my little filing system in my head. Because knowing they're American somehow actually sort of endears them to me a bit more, because, as you say, like Killing Joke, early 80s industrial metal, they've absolutely got that sound. But if they were doing that and they're from another country with other influences, that puts them in a different slot in my mental filing system.
So Revolting Clocks was formed by the main guy from Ministry and I think some German guys. And the first album is 1989, and it's basically an ode to hip hop sampling.
Right? God, doesn't make it
So
that
you
much
know,
easier.
and what surprised me about this new album is how organic it is, and they do sample a lot, but I still think of them as a industrial band where they put a lot of emphasis on live guitars, but then mechanized almost everything else. But I really like the riff and its relationship. I like the riff, the way that they played a drum beat to it. So rather than doing what most metal would do these days, which is just put a double kick to it, they just put a really basic beat to it. And the vocals, which are just Jazz Coleman, really good Jazz Coleman sort of soaring aspect to it.
I really, really like that. I was looking forward to listening to the album until you.
It's not a bad album. It's just the album's just a bit unfocused for me. But also, I mean, frankly, the best stuff that I think the guy has done as albums go is by far and away the Lard stuff. With
Bloody! I didn't know he was in Ward as well. This is. I'm fascinated by bands like Bite Ministry, even if I don't immediately sort of latch onto them. But I think you can like a band but not like the music. So he was part of Lard as well.
He was the main music writer for Lard, I think.
The
he's really
power of Lard.
He's really good friends with Chilla Bafra.
Right. This is all very, very interesting. There's a fantastic documentary on industrial music done by a guy on YouTube called Trash Theory. He's one of the people I support on Patreon. I really like the fact that for like a dollar or two a month, thousands of people can come together and actually just make it someone's job. Hey, you're really good at making documentaries about music. Therefore, it should be your job. I think that's awesome. But there's a really good one about industrial music, which I just thought was absolutely fascinating. I'd happily I was thinking about this on the walk to work this morning. I was listening to something and it was talking about preparing for retirement, which I mean is I'm never going to be able to retire. I'm going to live until I'm literally going to be like pressing keys on a keyboard as I die, age 130. And I was thinking, what would I spend my time with? And I thought I would genuinely like to spend a day or two a week when I retire watching music documentaries. Literally just have that as a day, like 9 to 5, just watching music documentaries.
Yeah, I really miss the classic rock. What's it, the classic albums on? When they did, I always preferred watching the British bands or European bands when they would go so far as crediting the rest of Europe as creating decent music, rather than the American ones, because Europe has a level of self-deprecation that the Americans don't get. And I like I really liked. It's my favorite way to spend a Friday night when I was at home when they did those classic album stuff was watching BBC4, drinking a bit too much by myself, and I think the Finns call it getting pants drunk.
Yeah. Someone bought me a book about getting pants drunk, and it wasn't you, which I just expect anything finished to sort of come from your direction. There's something else that I think the video for that song sucks.
No, I haven't seen. Did they release that one as a single?
I don't know. There's a properly made video. It's not like one of those videos on YouTube where it's just like the album cover pulsing gently or whatever. It's all crucifixions and it's all the stuff that you'd probably expect from the lyrics. But one thing it confirmed to me is that the bass player actually plays in a style that I've used my whole career, where he's playing opposite timing to the guitarist. So the riff is like, and the bass is playing, I guess, on the off notes. So I really, really like that because it for me musically it really stretches everything out really beautifully because it gives the guitar riff space to thump away, but also allows us. We do it when we make techno. There's a whole thing with techno is you don't put anything really notable on the kick, so the kick's got space to actually sound through. And I just thought, yeah, I really like that aspect of that track, that riff. So good work, Sam. Well done. Have a cookie.
Oh, don't have any cookies.
Oh, should we play my riff?
No.
Okay, let's skip that.
I
I actually had a lot of contenders for riff of the week this week, because I discovered a band through the Tidal recommendations thing, which is just brilliant.
I've got through that, yeah.
Band called Slift, which is SLIFT, and I don't know if they'd be Sam music or not. They are heavy as shit. Imagine like Opeth, if Opeth just stopped fannying about with the twiddly bits. It's basically like that. It's so good, and they're an American 3-piece. They're really young guys, but the music is just unbelievable. But after saying all that, I am not going to play that. I'm going to play this.
What's going on with that voice?
See, I wanted to choose a sensible riff, but I was listening to this track, and that bit in it. First of all, there's a la 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 la, which reminds me of Adam Buxton. Imagine Adam Buxton in like a death metal band. La 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 la. And then there's the other bit where it just sounds like I don't know, like trying to get a hair out of his throat or something.
There's a really good. I really like listening to Tom Service's show on Radio 3, which is, what's it called? What's it called? Music Service?
I always skip Radio 3 and BBC Radio 3, and I really shouldn't, because
the listening service, of course, it is Tom Service. Listening service, years ago they did one about subharmonics in singing, and they talked to Barney Greenway from Nathan Beck.
Oh wow!
About
really?
How you do that with your throat, and it's like they went from the gamut of really low singers to growlers.
Part of it's a traditional Finnish way of singing, isn't it?
No.
Is it Finnish or Norwegian? There's a video that went round on Reddit of I don't fucking know, Norway's Got Talent or something. It's one of those shows, and it's this girl who must have been a teenager went up and she was playing guitar, and then she started doing like the death metal thing, and of course everyone on Reddit, and especially Americans, go, "Oh, look, foreign people." But I was like, whoa, her voice. And then it went round to the judges, I guess you'd call them, and they're all just like, yeah, well done. And I was like, what the hell? And it turned out, because it was like some sort of folk singing that she was doing, but it was just like exactly the same as death metal growling.
There is a form of singing that I think they differ in the sonic, like what they do, but there's a like throat singing. So Mongolians have a version.
Oh, like tight throat or whatever they call it.
Well, I think they produce basically two notes at the same time from the one place, and
from one face. Did you say?
And there's and I think Siberian cultures have it as well as some Alaskan cultures, some very northern, Inuits have a form of throat singing as well, and I've seen one woman do it a few times in trendy spots in London, and I just thought it looked a bit. Her version of it just looked a bit. I don't know. I didn't buy into what she was doing with it. I thought, as a cultural practice, it's not for me to judge whatsoever. It's what it is. But her interpretation of what to do with it and make it into a contemporary art form, it just hit the mark. It didn't hit the mark. It didn't really sort of.
I love that people try.
My friend loved it. My friend Dal loved it.
I don't think I've. So we're talking on a podcast about someone who he has featured on the podcast, but he's not been a guest.
But his voice.
I don't think I've ever heard him say anything negative. Not only about music, but about anything in life.
Oh, I'm sure he said negative things about me, but in jest, in jest. What's the? There is what's the for that sort of? But there's a band called Demilix, Demillich, who are a pioneering Finnish death metal band, and who sort of do sort of prog death metal. One of the
Can you send me
first
a
ones.
link? Because that sounds exactly
Yeah,
like something I'd want to listen to.
and the guy has this unbelievably low voice, and it's so like, and there's different mixes of the album. One when it's sort of like in the mix and it sounds great. When it's like pushed up far too much, and it really sort of kills the drama of the music.
When the vocals, that kind of throat vocals, get too low, or when they get too low and they're too loud in the mix, there's basically very little difference between the noise that comes out of the mouth orifice and the noise that comes out of the arse orifice. They start to blend and become quite similar. And I think if I was going to form the worst death metal band ever, I'd just record my guts. Just use
There's
that.
been a whole load of people who sort of got like, you look on YouTube, there's like dog barking death metal and parrot death metal and stuff like that.
Oh man! I didn't actually say the name of the band, did I? Because it's an awful band name, but quite funny as well. I don't think they're totally serious, although it's really bloody hard to tell. I mean, they're not like Steel Panther, but the band is called Party Cannon.
Oh, I was listening to them. Yeah, I listened to something they did yesterday.
And the song is called Weird But Not Illegal, which I think I really like. I mean, what a brilliant song title. Weird But Not Illegal. Because
I think they're playing a few metal festivals in Europe this week.
I'd go see them. I think the idea of a fun, they're sort of like almost, the video is almost like frat boy kind of thing. I have no connection with at all. And when I first heard that bit on the riff, I thought it was just like chug, 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 or something like that. But it's not. It's just la 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 la, just very strange. Right.
Well, what I noticed the other week when I sung along to a death metal riff is that if you actually sing it, it never sounds as heavy as when it's detuned to B or something, and or tuned down to B and sort of scraping the low ends of the a 7-string guitar.
Like some people think they can sing, and then there are people who can sing. So like my mum's a trained soprano. She can sing like fuck. I'm sure she'd be thrilled that I just said that on a podcast. And she's incredibly loud. And then there's people who think they can, and you see them at karaoke, and you're just like, no. I think I could develop a good death metal growling vocal. I think, and I'm not going to demonstrate now, but every time I try it in my own company, it's awful. And yet for some reason I still think I've got that talent like inside me. But I don't know where you'd go to learn how to do it. It's like, I might have mentioned on the podcast before, I bumped into somebody on LinkedIn who said they can teach anyone to sing. And I was like, really? Okay. And she's like, yeah, just record yourself singing. And she messaged back and said, I think you might be better off as an entertainer rather than a singer. So no, maybe not. I was just going to say that it's interesting that sort of throat singing pops up independently all around the world, and I wonder if it's just because you can make it really loud, and communication's like a big old thing. I learned from Have I Got News for You that having a loud voice was quite a thing in ancient Greek culture. Basically, if you're a gobshite, if you're really loud, you'd be seen as like really excellent.
I think in ancient Greece, you then want to be a loud gobshite with a tiny cock.
What's the tiny cock thing?
This is apparently small, big phallic bits of your anatomy, big penises, suggested animal, animality. So you're subject to your baser craves. So they put on a pedestal small penises because it showed that you weren't horny and therefore were governed by reason.
I would not want my willy on a pedestal. As we're now talking about genitals, and we're 20 minutes into the episode, should we actually explain the theme for this week? Do you want to have a go at explaining it? Because I think we've both found this quite challenging.
Oh, we were thought we the title was inconsistency in lyrics, and then I think it sort of spiraled out of into just for me anyway. It just spiraled out into stupid lyrics because,
Ah,
frankly, I couldn't find that many. I don't like you want to if you nitpick. The problem with trying to find inconsistencies is that you have to understand that person's worldview to find that for it to be inconsistent.
so
And
you intellectualize that.
and like there's a load of different ways of putting lyrics together. Some people are just really obscurist. Some people are very poetic. Other people are very sort of plain. But I'd say, and also it's like I don't know. I don't these days, frankly, listen to a lot of singers who I can understand what they're saying, and secondly, I don't actually. I used to as a teen spend so much time on lyrics, and these days I don't. Um, and they still mean something to me, but I don't know. I'm just not. I don't listen to they mean something to me when you sing along to them. So I don't listen to that many sing along bands anymore. So
I've never really
I
given.
struggle.
I've never really gave a shit about, to be honest, singers, let alone lyrics, until I got into Against Me, and then it suddenly felt very, very important. But no, on the whole, I don't really give a shit. It's going to be interesting going through this, and I think I'm going to have to look up some of the lyrics as we go along. Your
Yes.
first choice
Yeah.
reminded me of two very cool things, or two interesting things rather. One of them is, I'm going to give away who it is by saying this. I'm just going to play it and then completely forget to ever come back to that point, because that's the way we roll.
Stop and look around, it's all astounding. Water, fire, air, and dirt. Fucking magnets, how do they work? And I don't wanna talk to a scientist. Y'all motherfuckers lying and getting me pissed. Solar eclipse and vicious weather. 15,000 juggalos together. And I love my mom for giving me this time on this planet. Take nothing for granted. I seen a caterpillar turn into a butterfly. Miracles ain't nothing to lie. Shaggy's little boys look.
It's just shit. Go on, say who it is.
It's Insane Clown Posse with the song Miracles, which went viral for the exact reason
Because it's shit.
the lyrics are so stupid.
They're all over the place as well. There's no
They're all over
thread.
the place. And then they say, I don't want to listen to a scientist. They're listing a load of things that that are quite regular occurrences that science has done very well to explain
Yeah.
for them in like a general way. Like fucking magnets, how do they work?
That might be my favorite. I know we're early on, but I think that I know all the choices, and I think that might be my favourite bit of all the songs today. Magnets, how do they work?
Yeah.
Jesus.
I mean, I don't want to talk to a scientist. Your motherfucker's lying and getting me pissed. Solar eclipse and vicious weather. So you don't want to listen to the people who can literally explain.
These people can help you, Mister
Yeah,
Mister Painty Face Man.
These people like.
Sorry, if anyone doesn't know, Insane Clown Posse have like clown paint on. Juggalos for life and all that.
They're sort of they were 90s like I guess sort of gangster rap phenomenon, and they're like there is a really good documentary on Juggalos, who are what their fans are called, and like it's like an insane sort of world that these people inhabit and become, and it's a bit like, but it's just the level of stupidity, frankly, in those lyrics is just like just and they released it, and there was no one to sort of go, none of their managers, none of the, record label people, none of everybody just goes, you guys know the spirit of the song isn't necessarily bad, but what you're listing has been explained.
Just makes you sound like idiots. I mean, like willful idiots, the worst kind. An idiot who's I don't understand these things, and I'm going to ignore you if you try and explain basic principles.
That's the line. I don't want to talk to a scientist. Your motherfucker's lying.
The thing is, it's not.
Then how do you explain this shit? I think there's some idea that they released it when one of them became a born again Christian or something.
Oh God, why throw that into the mix? I don't get it. I love hip hop. I absolutely adore hip hop as well. Also, as do you, as does anyone listening to this will know. There is nothing redeeming about that track at all. The backing track's shit. The vocals are way too high. There's no real flow. One of the guys has got a semi-nice voice, but it's just... I'm sorry, any juggalos listening to this, you might have to find another podcast because you're wrong. It's not good music. If
they're evangelical Christians.
Oh, just tell me they like guns, and that's the final nail in the coffin. Nothing against Christianity. I just want to make really clear that I'm not ragging on Christianity, but it's throwing that into the mix.
If we're going to go for if these are the opening lyrics of the song, if magic is all we've ever known, then it's easy to miss out what really goes on. Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, fair point. Okay. Now let's expound upon that. Expound, is that a word?
But I've seen miracles in every way.
Every single way. That man has gone up to a crosswalk, pressed the button, waiting for the green man, and seen a fucking miracle. That man's taken a shit, wiped his ass, looked at the toilet paper, and seen the image of a smiling dog. Miracles in every way.
Yeah.
Stubbed his toe and looked down and found gold bullion in the shape of the Pope's cock.
How do you know what the Pope's cock looks like?
Gold, clearly.
And I see miracles every day. Oceans spanning beyond my sight and a million stars away above them at night.
He has busy days every day. Every day.
But the thing is, I get the point of the song is supposed to be, isn't this earth and, what happens on it astounding? But then they put in this stuff of fucking magnets, how do they work? I don't want to talk to a scientist. I think any to my understanding, a lot of actually what Western science comes out of is people trying to understand the miracles of what they considered God's creation. Galileo was never questioned that there was a God, but he was thrown into jail. As far as I understand, my history may be very bad at this point, but the point is that actually a lot of Western natural science comes out of exploration of Christian values and Christian ideas.
That's wonderment, and there's so much Christianity is about gratitude to God. So science is a good expression of that.
Yeah, and I don't think I've met people who do who have PhDs in nuclear physics who still have a space for a religious identity within that. There are plenty of others who don't, and that's fair. It's not, but you don't have to. It doesn't have to be one or the fucking other.
That's what's irritated me so much about this song.
And and it's why?
Just why?
Why? And the basic point is organized religion bad, religion unorganized religion fine, whatever.
Right. So your first choice has really been a great one for discussion. We've gone from the Pope's cock to still on religion, I suppose. My first choice is just, it's a bit lazy if I'm honest, but I wanted to include it, so I'm going to play it.
in this town. See, me and the boys, we don't like it.
See, this
What
isn't.
a great fucking band.
Do you know, I really need to listen to more Thin Lizzy. I really do, because every time I hear any little bit, I absolutely love it. I could get Planet Rock in here, so I'm pointing at a DAB radio. I can't anymore. And I used to listen to Planet Rock sometimes if I've had enough of people talking. I switch off Six Music and I listen to Planet Rock or Radio Helsinki. More so Radio Helsinki these days. But every Thin Lizzy song I've ever heard, apart from The Boys Are Back in Town, which I've just heard too often, sounds fantastic. What a voice.
Yeah, what a voice. And actually, I always feel like the big singles just sort of skim the surface. And actually, the big singles are the dumbest and worst of their material.
Oh, yeah, I need to listen to more. Because they punted out a lot of records, didn't they? Loads of really good guitarists. Like, I was going to say like Gary Moore. I don't really know enough about Gary Moore to know whether he's good or bad.
Phil Lynott and Gary Moore were very good friends. I think before, and Gary Moore, as far as I understand it, really resisted becoming part of Thin Lizzy.
No, I read that as well. I used to love reading Classic Rock magazine. If I went on holiday, I'd just read it cover to cover, and that was one of the things I read. He was like, "No, don't want to do it. Don't do it. Like, we'll give you millions of pounds." Oh.
But I think it's also a thing of like it was like a, oh, my mate is not doing too well on the drugs, and he's getting a bit. So but also, if I go and be on a Thin Lizzy album, maybe he'll come and be on my album, and that will give it a sales boost.
But just to deal with the elephant in the room, which isn't a nitpicking inconsistency, it is just a bit of a daft thing. There's going to be a jailbreak somewhere in this town. I mean, where would you start looking if you know there's going to be a jailbreak? Where would be the first place you look, Sam?
But this is what I mean, is that this is level of interpretation. So yeah, you can see there's going to be a jailbreak somewhere in town. Of course, it's a jailbreak, but it could be a euphemism for for men basically going out and getting shit-faced behind their partner's back.
Wow, I've never even considered that. Or somebody could just be you can jailbreak your iPhone, but I suppose this was recorded many years before iPhone.
I think this might be before that. There's going to be a jailbreak on your iPhone, on an iPhone somewhere. That's the modernized version of it. Yeah,
could be any one of the hundreds of iPhone, phone repair shops there are on every British high street. It's basically phone repair shops, and I'm about to go into an old man rant about it. It's all phone shops and American candy.
But yeah, I mean, I always thought it's too dumb a lyric for it to just be about a jailbreak, because it is about a lad's night out in the city.
Oh, I had no idea.
And it's in that way it's an awful song, because it's basically an ode to odorous drunken men being lecherous and fucking around behind their partner's back.
Is that what The Boys Are Back in Town's about as well?
Yeah, I think so.
But apart from those two tracks, there's a lot of non.
Oh, he's got
lads.
So
you're looking it up.
Yeah, but then it is. I mean, I want to think. Maybe I was giving him too much the benefit of the doubt. The first verse is, there was a friend of mine on murder, and the judge's gravel fell. Jury found him guilty, gave him 16 years in hell. He said, I ain't spending my life here. I ain't living alone. Ain't no breaking rocks on the chain gang. I'm breaking out and heading home. I never looked at the lyrics. Maybe
that doesn't sound like it's a euphemism or an allusion to something else. That sounds quite clear. Has it got a happy ending? Go on, just skip to the end of the lyrics. I'd like to.
I'm going to go for the second verse. He said he'd seen his lady being fooled with by another man. She was down and he was up. He had a gun in his hand. Oh, bullets started flying everywhere, and people started to scream. Big men lying on the ground with a hole in his body where his life had been, but it was all in the name of liberty.
I'm
taking it back. I think I'm taking it back. It would seem. Oh no, sorry.
What?
You know what?
You're looking at the wrong song.
It's Jailbreak by AC/DC.
See, AC/DC, I wouldn't. I would just assume it would be kind of like, very
Yeah.
literal. I wouldn't look to AC/DC for deep meaning, like I might pretty much anywhere else in my life. God, how good are we, Sam?
So,
Have you found
man.
have you got the proper
Yeah,
lyrics now?
tonight there's going to be a jailbreak somewhere in this town. See, me and the boys, we don't like it, so we're getting up and going down, hiding low, looking left to right, right to left. If you see us coming, I think it's best to move away. Do you hear what I say from under my breath?
Well, no,
Blah, blah,
because you're
blah,
speaking
blah.
under your breath. That's not good communication.
I mean, it sounds like the second verse sounds like more like he's playing what's it, Monopoly. I can hear the hound dogs on my trail. All hell breaks loose. Alarms and sirens wail. Like the game, if you lose, go to jail.
Okay,
So
yeah. So okay, that is clearly something other than. I always wondered if Sham
yeah, it's a
16.
lot less literal than the AC/DC one. I think I'm going to stick with AC/DC is about a fantasy of a very violent man, and Thin Lizzy is about getting pissed in town.
With some sort of commentary. That's quite wonderful. Let's play your next song. I can't believe you did all that on the wrong pad. Oh man, here we go. Oh, I hate that. Go for it. Who was it, Con? It was just.
That's Alice Cooper.
I like you said his name like it's an apology, which I quite like.
It's Alice Cooper. And this is from this is Feed My Frankenstein, and it upsets me because Alice Cooper always seems like quite a well-read person to me, and yet he's using Frankenstein as a metaphor for his penis, and a penis with an insatiable thirst for anything, I guess.
Oh, I picked out some lyrics. Believe me, I've got some things to discuss in this.
Fuck's sake. Sorry, I've just seen one.
Don't say it. Don't say it. We'll compare. We'll compare parts of the lyrics because I'm pretty sure, knowing you just. Shall I just say with the one I've picked out? So I've got. So let me drink wine from your fur teacup. Oh dear God! Let me drink the wine from your fur teacup. Now, is that the one that you picked out as well?
Yeah, this is the same person who wrote the fucking lyrics for "Only Women Bleed" and 18 and all these other things. I mean, School's Out for the Summer is not the most intellectually engaging song, but he had plenty of really good lyrics in those first few albums. And then he gets to 1991, he's been lumped in sort of like horror rock metal world, and he just goes bass and a bit lazy and stupid, and it's disappointing. Basically, this song is disappointing because, as everybody knows, Frankenstein isn't the monster. Frankenstein's the scientist.
Yeah.
And Frankenstein, the story of Frankenstein, the scientist, is about obsession with technology at the expense of everything else. And the story of the monster is about is a different story. And he's just lazy. It annoys me.
It's just lazy. And I mean, so he's another Christian man, and he still performs. So he just skips and let me drink the wine from your fur teacup when he's on stage now.
I think he's found a way of separating.
Oh, the next line's nearly as bad. Velcro candy, sickly sweet. Just that actually actually made me feel. I'm going to have a sip of water. That made me feel a little giddy.
I mean, listen. I mean, he did it awful. Only Women Bleed, song from 19. This is 16 years before Feed My Frankenstein. And this is about domestic violence. Man got his woman to take his seed. He got the power. She got the need. She spends her life through pleasing up her man. She feeds him dinner, anything she can. She cries alone at night too often. He smokes and drinks, then doesn't come home at all. Only women bleed. It's a fucking depressing image.
It's a depressing image, but it's actually kind of rounded and thought out, and an actual lyric, and doesn't mention furry teacups.
Yeah, and it's also 1975, so in the height of in the becoming sort of metal scene, which is the metal is sort of a very understood as a very male-dominated space, and it's a very there's a term in academia that's been bandied around through it called hypermasculinity, and all these other aspects. And here is a guy, 1975. Just hit the big time with it. Starts to hit the big, and he writes a song about domestic abuse.
It's bewildering, utterly bewildering. Was he sober by then?
I don't know. Maybe he needed the drink to be socially conscious.
So when he was sober, oh god! Right, we ought to nip on to the next selection, which is mine.
Day when I was chilling in Kentucky Fried Chicken, just minding my business, eating food and finger licking. This dude walked in, looking strange and kind of funny. Went up to the front with a menu and his money. He didn't walk straight, kind of side to side. He asked this old lady,
is this Kentucky Fried?
The lady said, yeah, smiling. He smiled back. He gave a quarter and his order.
Small fried.
Big Mac, you be.
So that was You Be Illin' by RunDMC off the first album I ever bought, which is Raising Hell. And I know every word of that, probably that entire album. And this track has always bothered me. Can you guess what it was that's inconsistent in there?
He's ordering the wrong thing.
He's ordering the wrong thing. Although now it starts off with day when I was chilling in Kentucky Fried Chicken, just minding my business, eating food and finger licking. This is the way to make RunDMC or any rap sound really uncool, is to be a middle class white guy, well, working class. I've worked my way down from middle class to working class. Well, I'm probably sub that now. This dude walked in.
You keep talking. I'm listening. I'm just going to make some coffee.
Okay. So this dude walked in looking strange and kind of funny, went up to the front with a menu and his money. You don't take the menu to the till, actually, anywhere.
Sometimes you do.
Do you really?
Yeah.
They're like big tellies now. You couldn't take them up to the till. They'd just kick
but
you out.
I've been in plenty of restaurants. Where was I last? In Disneyland. You did in some of the spots in Disneyland. He took the menu up to the counter.
He didn't walk straight, kind of side to side. Now, I always, as a child, just sort of didn't really think much about that, or thought maybe the guy just had a really funky way of walking, like a crab or something. But as an adult, I'm now guessing that walking kind of side to side means the guy might be carrying a bit of extra timber. He might be waddling a little bit.
You also might have I think they call it the gangster lean.
The gangster lean. And then he asked this old lady, "Yo, is this Kentucky Fried?" So, what? Why is it an old lady? That just seems odd. The lady said, "Yeah," smiled, and he smiled back. Now I like that because he's clearly a genial fellow. This is both of these parts of the next line have always bothered me. He gave a quarter and his order, small fries, Big Mac. So yeah, Big Mac. You don't get a Big Mac in KFC. That's the primary thing. But surely a quarter has never been enough for an order of food in a fast food restaurant. This is like 1980.
Inflation.
Yeah, but not like a quarter, 25 cents in 1986.
Okay, let's see. How much did a Big Mac cost in 1986? I
really want to know now. You still wouldn't be able to get it from KFC.
Well, how much Big Mac Good stuff. $1.60.
Yeah, so no, he's still not taking enough money to the till.
That's true. But do you know what the phrase "illin" translates as?
I always assumed it's just like to be unhealthy. Or is it-
Well, this is what the lyric hinges on.
yeah,
So he be illin, according to dictionary.com. Illin, definition and uses. It's a slang. It's an adjective. You pronounce it ill-in. Let's see if this works. There we go. It means to be foolish or crazy.
I had
So-
no idea.
The lyric, I'm afraid, makes sense because it's basically, what the fuck? I saw this thing, we were just chilling, and then this guy did this thing that was illin. And I sound so white now.
Thank you for clearing up a nearly 40-year-long mystery in my mind. I mean, it does make sense because the last...
I can understand how in deepest, darkest Suffolk, under the borrowers with the Wurzels and the other things.
They're West Country, you bastard.
West Country. I'm sorry. Am I being insensitive to your cultural heritage? I can understand how in the countryside, I can understand how outside anywhere but America, that lyric might be very confusing.
I have said before on the podcast, this was the only album I had for a while. I think I got it when I was like 7 or 8. And some of the lyrics, when I became an adult and read them again, I do not know how my parents didn't just come running into my
Go on,
bedroom.
Tell us some.
Proud to be Black. There's a track, Proud to be Back, which is bloody brilliant, and the lyrics are great. And I was stomping around my bedroom shouting how I was proud to be motherfucking black. And that must have, my parents either didn't hear me or just thought it's a phase.
Well, maybe you were like Steve Marston, you were brought up a poor black boy.
Right. I just want to give you the end of the story because now knowing what illin actually means, it makes total sense. I mean, there's no. Who's Dr. J? Let's not dive too far into this because there's all kinds of bits now that I now see make sense. Right, he's gone to a game. I'm not going to give you the lyrics, but it says something about through the hoop. He sees what I assume is a basketball go through a hoop, and he yells touchdown. So again, now wrong sport, but illin maybe that makes sense. But the last line I was always curious about. For dinner, you ate it. There is none left. Okay, so we know the guy likes food. That's where we're going. It was salty with butter, and it was death. Now, I always thought it was death. It was death. Like, it was salty and butter. It's death. You're eating something that's just death. You know, it's going to kill you. But it's not. The lyrics, at least on the site that I'm looking at, says deaf, D-E-F. Now, deaf, I believe, is a good thing. God, this is the most white thing. I believe deaf is good. Is it D-E-F? You're looking it up now. Sorry for the radio silence. Sam's looking at his phone here.
Come on, internet, give us the meaning.
Yeah, I want to know. I'm going to ask ChatGPT.
Very good.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it was salty and butter, and it was deaf. It was good, but things get strange after that. You proceeded to eat it because you was in the mood. Fair point. I'd call that like a padding lyric, really. It's just sort of filling in a gap. But Holmes, you did not read. It was a can of dog food. So I've never had a dog. Do they put salt and butter in dog food?
I don't think you would.
Do you know, I found out where the white dog poos have gone. So you grew up sort of around Europe, but where you grew up, did you have white dog poos on the pavements?
We didn't have pavements where I grew up. Countryside.
Well, in it was quite normal to see white dog poo on the pavement. And
I
then
cannot remember in Rome when I moved when I was a teenager. I cannot remember white dog poo. I remember a lot of dog poo.
but did the heat bake them and make them solid, so less slippery and less messy, or did it just make them worse? Oh, I can see myself reflected in your mirror. Sorry. Great thing to say on a podcast, I know, but I've developed like a Queen Bohemian Rhapsody type effect on Sam's mirror.
I think maybe I should just leave it up there rather than come back with my coffee.
Yeah, so white dog poo. It was because noise. Is that what is that? Is that it's not your jaw? Is it? Oh, not your knees or anything. Yeah, so white. I'm going to just wrap this up because this isn't very interesting anyway. Dog poo. There used to be white dog poo because dog food was such poor quality. It was basically like chalk and dust and stuff. So when dogs did a poo, it was white. Right, let's move on and play your next choice.
Everybody said we gotta take a chance and tell them what the hell went wrong. We only listen to the words that we sing. Now a million are singing along. You got it right.
Oh, go on then. Who's that?
Well, that's the sound of a band coasting on their coattails and not really giving a fuck anymore.
On their own coattails. That's quite an impressive move.
They were, as Rancid. If you could tell, if any of you couldn't tell by the questionable delivery by Tim Armstrong, I mean, it's one of these awful songs that a lot of I'm sure a lot of oi bands do as well. And it's called "Last One to Die," and it's all about how we've lasted this long, and we've said we've proven all the naysayers wrong. Fuck you. And it's just such a boring cliche piece of shit. And
I like that NoFX had a song like that, but at NoFX it wasn't "fuck you." It was like basically, how the hell are we still here? And then they announced they're splitting up.
So everybody's saying we got to take a chance. And the thing is, when Rancid were good, they took a lot of chances. They don't take that many chances these days. And tell me what the hell went wrong. That you started repeating yourself too much, and you started getting into. You became like punk bands have that thing of like what happened with Friends. That Friends lasted so long, they just became caricatures of the characters. They didn't stop being 3D.
No.
They just started being like these paper-thin versions of what they sort of thought they might have started out as. And that sort of happens to, particularly, I think, heavy metal and punk rock bands. They just become these caricatures. So rather than having any sort of like innovation within them, they just sort of become these sort of cliches of themselves. That's what went wrong, Tim. We only listen to the words we sing. How? No one can understand them. Now a million are singing along. Now that's fair enough. You are a big band. We got it right. Yeah, you got it right in the early days. You got wrong. You got wrong? What does you got wrong mean? You got wrong what?
Just squeezing in the words to make it fit in the line.
We're still around. Brackets, the chorus behind Tim Armstrong is going "Last One to Die," and actually they put this out. When did they put this out? There's still quite a lot of bands from Rancid era. 2009. So they put that out 15 years ago, and there were still a lot of bands from from the 90s who were still touring at that point. So they really weren't the last ones to die.
No, and the whole way bands exist now is so different. Bands used to pop into being, exist for a few years, and then blink out and disappear. It was quite normal. There's so many bands that anyone listening will dearly love, and if you think about it, they're probably only around for a few years. You mentioned the Beatles. They weren't around for very long.
No, it's 7 years, 6 years.
Bands now, it's like a career thing, isn't it? You get a sniff of something. I was quite surprised to find out Def Heaven have been going like 14 years or something.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like, if you look at this, is sort of the sad thing of I think a lot of festivals these days is that they've stopped being like who's the biggest thing that year as they were. I feel like, when I was a kid, it was who's put out a big album that year. Or when I was a teenager, it was who had put out a big album that year. So, you would have the first festival I went to was Reading 2001. Who was on that bill?
While you're looking at that, very, very small thing, looking on the lyrics thing, it tells you who the publishing's with, and it's Wixon Music Publishing. Don't know what that means. But the writers are Lars Fredriksson, yep, not a surprise. Roger Matthew Freeman, don't know, I guess he's the drummer.
He's the bassist.
Oh, I thought Lars Fredriksson was the bassist.
He's the rhythm. He's the only guitarist live because Tim Armstrong's too busy posing.
And then the final credit, Timothy USA Armstrong. So actually his middle name.
Might be.
That's so strange.
But so 2000. I mean, I went for the rock day. But who's headlining Leeds Reading 2001 in terms of alternative music? Okay, it was NMM, who's controversial, but then it's Marilyn Manson, Papa Roach, Queens of the Stone Age, Exhibit is on it, The System of a Down, Fear Factory, Ed P. Stained, Boy Hits Car. And,
it's not a bad lineup.
The thing is, they were all current bands. They were all current bands. And then last year was they don't really have an alternative day anymore, do they?
No.
Yeah, they've sort of given up on their alternative side. But if you look at any sort of rock festival, it's like a heritage thing these days, which is what makes which is why I don't really want to go to Helsinki this year, because it is, and also the headliners in almost every sort of festival thing. It's just a heritage industry.
Yeah.
So where are those bands that actually are like good, young and good, and getting enough attention to actually bring them into that headliner slot?
It is something that I think is beyond our understanding, but having a teenage daughter and learning how teenagers now absorb music and how they find it, and how it's now so disconnected from the PR of new releases that who knows what's going to happen. I think it's going to be really interesting, but we ought to move on because we're running over time. So
can we get Izzy to choose 10 tracks for us one episode?
We do a really nice thing now, and she started it. If we're driving somewhere and it's just me and her, we play a song each. So she'll play a song and I'll play a song, and it's really lovely. It's a really nice thing to do. She was not impressed by the Lawrence Arms, unfortunately, but right, let's go for my next track.
I went to a shrink to analyze my dreams. She says it's like a sex that's bringing me down. I went to a whore. He said my life's a bore. So quit my wife because it's bringing her down. Sometimes I give.
So this one has confused me since it came out. In fact, I played this to Izzy in the car just a couple of days ago. Really into Nirvana, so I want to kind of move her on. Sort of move her on onto other stuff, which is not because Nirvana aren't excellent, just because it's sort of the next natural step in my head to go from Nirvana to Green Day, and then all these doors open to loads of stuff. But the lyric here,
I think you should try her on Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah, well, I need to listen to Smashing Pumpkins, quite frankly. So maybe we'll share that. So I went to a whore. He said, "My life's a bore. So quit my whining because it's bringing her down." So at first, here listening, I just thought, well, it's just an inconsistency because he switches from male to female. But the only other connotation I can think there is frankly offensive. So he's gone to a male prostitute and he's referring to her as her, which is just like a really horrible, old, misogynistic sort of gay people are women type stupidity. But I can't believe Billy Joe Armstrong would write that. I don't think it's just, I've never heard anything about anything he's ever said that would make me think he would even do it as a joke. You know, it's too rare.
I think it was my. I knew about that lyric, and I always thought about that one was about presenting a challenge to the audience who understood it, and a challenge to the radio listeners, and a challenge to everybody of sort of going, you know, there's a tradition within certain sectors, within certain groups of punk rock, the sort of musicians where they quite openly dabble with questioning gender identities. And this stems right back to, if you want to consider, you know, Lou Reed part of the heritage of punk or not.
Little Richard.
Little Richard, Lou Reed, right to the Ramones, you know, like there's that contradictory song, 53rd and 3rd by the Ramones, which is a song about Dee Dee Ramone being a male prostitute, but then stabbing someone because they called him a sissy.
The Ramones really confused me. I've never been able to latch onto them, but well, maybe it's just that then. Maybe it's just dropping a little something in, because it was a massive hit. And at the time, I can remember interviews, and they were like, we weren't expecting this to happen, because they did 2 albums that they worked really hard at. Grease is Green Day. They did 2 albums, Slapped Out Happy Hours and Kaplunk. Well, I can't remember what the first album's called, where they really tried. We really want to hit. We really want to be a big band. And they were basically burnt out, recorded Dookie, and they're like, fuck it, we're just going to do what we want. And it was a massive hit. But yeah, maybe no?
No, I think they you know, Dan Ozzy's Sellout is a good one to go for this, because they, you know, this was their first album on a major label, so they're not just going to kick it out. But also the guy who signed them, he was sort of riding on them doing something, and they spent shitloads of time getting that guitar sound right. Like the punch of that guitar is fantastic, and it didn't hit me until I read that book. But yeah, the guitar sound on Dookie is fantastic. It's got a real sort of like snarl to it that really sort of stands out.
It really captures the swing of his guitar playing as well, because it's not straight up at all, is it? It's got a very small amount of swing on it, which is what gives it that kind of like leaning forward sort of swagger. Okay, well, should we just put that down to Billy Joe Armstrong just having a laugh?
I think having a laugh and being provocative, you can get away with being provocative.
Yeah, no, cool, and I'm fully up for that, because I think some of the best provocative lyrics are ones that aren't massively obvious, and it's the I interviewed Laura Jane Grace with a friend, and we were talking about, I think many years ago, and was talking about pints of Guinness make you strong, and Laura Jane was saying that it was always about the stupidity of alcoholism and how she couldn't identify with like the frat boy, let's get pissed kind of attitude, and yet it had become a drinking song for frat boys and whatever. And I always think that sort of subversion and the way people absorb the lyrics, that maybe the correct meaning will go in one day. I really love that. I'm not really articulating myself very well, so I ought to move on to your last choice, which quite frankly has confused the hell out of me, because I'll just play it so we're doing nitpicking inconsistencies in lyrics, and this is Sam's last choice. Before you tell us who it was, I just want to say I fucking loved that. Absolutely, that everything about that. Go on, you're going to tell me you hate it now, aren't you? Who is it?
That's the Flat Earth Society, and no, but I've never listened to them on record.
Go on, tell us the name of the song.
Oh, what's the name of the song? I don't know.
Oh, I'll say it then. It's Vol Sperm Reverie. So VOLE, the little animal, Vol Sperm Reverie.
I believe they're a Belgian band, and I saw them. I saw them at a jazz club in not Cafe Oto, the other one. I can't remember what the other one's called now. But I saw them years ago. Must have been maybe 15 years ago at the in London. I'd been drinking with my friend earlier that day, and then I met some other friends, including Al, later that day to continue drinking. And I was just it's a small venue, and there's a sort of big band in front of you, and they're doing all this stuff, and it's just this sensory sort of overload, and it was just fucking amazing. Just wonderful. And so I couldn't be bothered to figure out inconsistent or annoying lyrics anymore. And I just wanted to play something that was sort of joyous and something completely different.
I love that. I was wondering, I thought you were going to have something really clever about it. Like, no, it's a tune I like. Right, well, let's march on to the next one. I agree, though. There's so much to love that. I love the album cover from that was on as well. It's like, I'm sure it's not deliberate, but in Father Ted, there's a look that Dougal gets when he's confused. It's basically every band member, and there appears to be about 30 of them, all doing that, pointing in a different direction. Just absolutely brilliant. But anyway, I started on an obvious one. I'm going to end on an obvious one.
The next day, it's a black fly in your Chardonnay. It's a death row pardon, 2 minutes too late. And isn't it ironic? Don't you think? It's like rain on your wedding day. It's a free ride when you've already paid.
Now, I assumed you'd know who that is, but you look a little confused. Do you know who that is?
I'm trying to. It's of course it's Alanis
Morricone. Yeah, that's right.
It's Ennio Morricone.
With the song "Ironic," I just thought I'm trying to spot what year it is, but it might be before your sort of awareness of music. It became.
Oh no, I know that. Everybody knows that fucking song. It was unavoidable in the 90s.
Oh, okay, cool. It got burned into my brain one day when I was visiting my mate, my Penny, who I can never remember if you know or not, and we'd got a little tipsy the night before, and we stayed there because that's what we used to do in our early 20s. You didn't bother walking the short walk home. You just put a coat over yourself and sleep on the floor. The next day, I can remember feeling quite unwell and sitting on the loo in a type of way that you have to sit there for a long time because you don't want to risk moving. And her next door neighbour was playing this song on repeat, and I must have heard it. I shudder to think how many times, and it annoyed me more and more each time I heard it, because you probably know where I'm going with this. Do you want to have a stab at it?
Well, it's famous for the fact that none of the things, or hardly any of the things that she lists, are ironic.
Yeah.
They're just unfortunate.
Yeah. But
so irony, according to Oxford Languages provided by Google, is the expression of one's meaning by using language that normally signifies the opposite. So they give the quote, "Don't go overboard with gratitude," he rejoined with heavy irony. Or it's a state of affairs or an event that seems deliberately contrary to what one expects and is often wryly amusing as a result.
Yeah, there's not a lot of it in this. Or, go on.
It's a literary technique usually originally used in Greek tragedy, by which the full significance of a character's words or actions is clear to the audience or reader, although unknown to the character.
So I'm gonna read the first verse, because it swings so wildly between things that would be a minor inconvenience and things that are quite dark. So the first one is an old man turned 98 and he won the lottery and died the next day. I mean, I don't know, that's just sort of not mad.
If he had been playing the lottery throughout his entire life, but we're not given enough story for it to be
Well, we're
ironic,
not, and growing
it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, and growing up in the UK, the lottery only started probably a year or two before this song
Yeah.
came out. So we're like, okay, but yeah, I've got no real attachment to that. It's just sort of The next one. It's a black fly in your Chardonnay. I mean, in terms of minor inconveniences, that's probably about as minor as it can get, because it's
And,
just you stick your finger in, hoik it out, carry on.
Chardonnay, good Chardonnays are expensive.
Yeah, I'd still drink it though. I wouldn't like. Yeah, I'm not drinking that. Yeah, bring spider crawl through it. I'd still drink it. And then the next line, it's a death row pardon 2 minutes too late. I mean, that's dark. I mean, going from like, mead beverages slightly inconvenienced to we've snuffed someone out. That seems like quite a swing to me.
And then there's it's good advice that you just don't take. No, that's just
rude, isn't it?
That's just like not thinking things through. There's nothing.
I quite like it's 10,000 spoons when all you need is a knife, because how big is that fucking cutlery drawer?
Okay, what about this one?
If you're going to buy that many spoons.
Mr. Play It Safe was afraid to fly. He packed his suitcase and kissed his kids goodbye. This is another dark one. He waited his whole damn life to take that flight, and as his plane crashed down, he thought, "Well, isn't this nice?" What he says has an irony to it.
But one of the things that comes up several times in the song is, isn't it ironic, don't you think? So she's asking, and you can just say no. No, it's not.
But it's supposed to be rhetorical. It's framed rhetorically.
Anyway, on that oddness, I'm going to tell you that the credit for that, it was written by Glenn Ballard, I don't know who that is, and Alanis Nadine Morissette. Nadine. Oh, have you heard? Do you know Nadine Shah?
Yes.
Yeah, her new stuff's quite interesting. We are massively over time, so we're gonna have to stop there, Sam. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for all the people who subscribed. We're starting to pick up subscribers now, which is very nice. But please contact us. You can, if you're listening on Spotify, there is something you can press that say hello. Otherwise, just email beatmotel@lawsy.com.
When can we monetize this?
At this rate, sometime around 2059, maybe.
Okay, so I mean, you'll still be around, because you said earlier that you're going to be around till year 130.
Yeah. And by the time we're 130, we might have monetized enough to actually kind of quit our jobs.
Retire on it.
Indeed. Right, I'm going to say goodbye. Then we'll go play the podcasting festivals as a heritage act.
Yes.
I'm going to say goodbye. Do you want to say goodbye?
Never. Fuck them.